Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce illustrious and honorable Dr. Saad Khan, currently serving as Chairman, Governor's Inspection Team, KPK. He's a widely published Pakistani political scientist and historian, as well as a 21-grade senior civil officer. He's an author of 8 books on international politics, South Asian area studies, and security studies. I request him to please come upon the podium to highlight our today's topic, CPEC achievements, targets, and future prospects.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Members of the high table, distinguished speakers, and ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege to be here speaking on the 10th anniversary of CPEC and 74th anniversary of the Revolution in the People's Republic of China. This will be the sequence of my presentation. This was sorry. Right, ladies and gentlemen, this was a brief introduction of Belt and Road Initiative. Before I could introduce, unfortunately, I'm not very savvy with technology, so the video started before I could say that it was going to start. Anyway, China's present leadership under President Xi Jinping had this idea of connecting the whole world through the old Silk Route trade routes, and that is why it was called One Belt One Road initially. But gradually, the Chinese government decided that it would spread to 78 countries in all 5 continents of the world, in all directions. So there were 3 routes. There were 6 routes instead of one belt, one road. So the nomenclature was changed to Belt and Road Initiative. And that's how the 6 routes came into being. And one of the routes was Pakistan-China Economic Corridor, which is one of the 6 routes. The agreement was signed in August 2015. And since then, it's a 15-year overall umbrella project of $62 billion total worth. So we are almost into the midway because it started in 2015, it will end in 2030. So almost 7.5 years have passed and 7.5 years have to go. And that's why we have to discuss where we stand today, right? So what is CPEC? CPEC was first proposed during the visit of Chinese Premier Li Keqiang in Pakistan in May 2013, and the modalities took 2 years to be finalized. And once they were, there were a number of projects that were included in it. Let's see, I hope, yeah. So, yeah. Right. So, there are 3 major areas where CPEC investment was to come. The biggest one was energy, with projects worth $33 billion US. The second one was infrastructure, which was rail and road, about $12 billion US. The third one was of about $800 million US, was the development of the city of Gwadar. And the fourth small one was the laying of optic fiber. So there were certain early harvest projects, there were certain short term, there were certain medium term, and there were certain long term projects. So let's see a small video. Right. So as I said, there were four major areas. One was energy sector. 3/4 of the total projects were about energy sector. About 30% roll and rail sector. About 3% Gawada project, and there was concept of miscellaneous, and an optic fiber was supposed to be laid. Before the CPEC was started, this green line was the total installed capacity of electricity in Pakistan. By 2015, due to power projects, the installed capacity continued to rise, and now we need 24,000 megawatts of electricity per day, but already our installed capacity has risen to 48,000 megawatts. These are the road networks that are completed, or that have been completed, or that will be completed. They have been shown in different lines. The red lines are the late harvest projects which will come about. The orange lines are the one already completed. For example, orange train line in Lahore. For example, the expansion and widening of Karakoram Highway. For example, the Sakhar Multan portion of the motorway. These are the rail networks. ML1, ML2, ML3 are shown, which will be, no rail project has yet been, other than orange train in Lahore, has been built yet, but they are in the formative phase. This is the master plan of the city of Gwadar, and the things that have been completed have been shown, because I cannot discuss each one of them because of time constraints. What I can, however, say is that there is certain economic impact, there is certain impact on the employability in our country because of CPEC. For example, the 62 billion in all initial projects signed were of 46 billion for 15 years. It means that almost every year 3 to 4 billion US dollars are being brought into Pakistan, either as loans or as FDI, as foreign direct investment. So Pakistan's GDP is around 300 billion US dollars. So it's about 1 to 1.5% of the GDP that is added each year. Then of course, the incremental growth in private sector, because SEZs, the 9 SEZs I showed to you, the special economic zones that are to be built by Pakistan, and more industries will be created that will create incremental growth in Pakistan and growth of the private sector as well. So in the medium term, after the completion of CPEC, we expect that Pakistan's GDP would be 6 to 7% higher than average. The total direct employment generated would be around 4 to 5 million. About 1 million are already working in CPEC related projects. The average household size in Pakistan is 6.7 according to 2023 census that was held in May. So the number of lives touched because of jobs created is about 30 million. So that's how the old Silk Route looked like, the belt and the maritime road, and that is how it will be once all the projects are completed. There would be a short route from China to the Middle East. It may have economic benefits for China, maybe, but it will certainly have grand economic benefits for Western China at least. The province of Xinjiang has a GDP of around 250 billion, almost the same as Pakistan, and for them it's the shortest route to go to the sea. But China will also have, inshallah, once the CPEC is completed, enhancement in its moral prestige, and diplomatic and strategic gains of CPEC cannot be underestimated for China. Now the last part of my discussion with you is about the balance sheet. What we have achieved and what we have not, and how could we achieve that. For example, we are also already into half of CPEC. 29 billion have been spent on CPEC projects. 19 billion, 18.9 that I showed in the video, projects have been completed, and another 9 billion are being invested or being consumed in the projects that are underway. For example, out of the 77 projects, 21 were in energy centers and energy sector, and 14 of the power generation facilities have been completed and operational, and their electricity consumption is now part of our national grid, which means that now we have an installed capacity much beyond what we needed, which means we have a surplus lying installed capacity for which we have to pay capacity payments. The Multan Sakhar motorway, widening of KKH, Lahore on train, etc. Some of the projects that have been completed. But there are some of the projects, for example, railway projects, ML1, ML2, ML3, for various reasons, political, litigation, financial constraints, they could not yet be started. The optic fiber has been laid already. Gwadar Airport is in the final stages. It will be ready by October of this year, 2023. The Gwadar International Hospital is also in the final stages of completion. The Gwadar master plan is ready. However, some of the things are not ready. For example, Gwadar International University was to be built. That couldn't take off. Only a technical center has been established. but that is also underutilized. Now, to conclude or before concluding, if the installed capacity of electricity and generation has been raised from 24,000 to 48,000, has it solved Pakistan's power outages or power problems? I don't think so. There is load shedding taking place all over the country. Lahore Orient Train built and operationalized. Has it? Right. Lahore Orient Train has been built and operationalized. And has it resolved the problems of congestion in this country or in this city where we are sitting? Orient Train is already there. Do you see less traffic on the roads? Yes or no? I leave it to you because most of you live in Lahore. Now, Gwadar Port has been operationalized. Has it taken over the load of KPT, Karachi Port Trust or Bin Qasim? Because Karachi and Bin Qasim are already working at 105% of the capacity. There are more ships in the waiting line at any given time than they could handle. And the idea was once the Gwadar is operational, half of the ships would go there, and they did not. Why? Today, at the 10th anniversary, this is a time for reflection for us Pakistanis. Because many of the things I am going to highlight in the next few slides have nothing to do with China. They have done their bit, they have done their part. They gave us money, they gave us loans, they gave us technical expertise, and whatever they could build, they did build. And whatever we could not start, it had nothing to do with China. For example, if ML1 could not start because we couldn't acquire land, because the land acquisition process ran into snags because there were court orders, that was not for Beijing to resolve, that was for Pakistan to resolve. For example, even if we build 72,000 megawatt of electricity per day instead of 48,000 or 100,000, Pakistan's energy shortage problem or energy cost problem will not be resolved unless and until we have transmission and distribution lines. All of the projects were of power generation. None of the projects, or at least two very small projects, almost negligible, related to transmission and distribution. So once an electricity is created but cannot be distributed to the cities, to the end users, what happens? You are bound by the agreements to pay them capacity charges of the installed capacity, that too in dollars. So once the rupee slides against the dollars because of mismanagement of economy, in rupee terms you have to pay higher and higher and higher cost to them, to the private companies. What happens? Not only outages continue, but outages actually increase with the increase of installed capacity. The higher the installed capacity, the higher the payments, the dollar rises in value, rupee drops in value, and in rupee terms, the unit shoots up from 12 rupees to 60 rupees. Now, this is something we as Pakistanis have to resolve by our introspection. Once the installed capacity was being built, all the SCCs had to be operational, because if the electricity is built and there is no consumer, then nobody is paying electricity bill for those 24,000 excess megawatts that have been added. So higher installed capacity has not resulted in resolving Pakistan's power paradox. And without power or energy, we cannot even think of growing as a prosperous nation like China or South Korea or Japan or other countries in the neighborhood on our right, on our east. Right? Because they solve their energy problem first. Then the Lahore transport system. Lahore transport system cannot be solved by one Orient train or two or three or five or 10. Lahore Orient train, Lahore traffic management can be resolved by a holistic approach to the problems of Lahore. For example, for a population of 12 million, the city of Lahore's ground footprint is about 40 kilometers to 50 kilometers, which is something like 2,000 square kilometers. Singapore, which has a population of half that of Lahore, 56 square kilometers, 7 kilometers by 8 kilometers, is rising, vertically. So their footprint on the land is 56 square kilometers. Ours is double the population, but the footprint on the land is 40 times higher. In such a scenario, no 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 lines can work to resolve the issue. Unless efficient land use, unless vacant plots are ended, but through higher taxation, nobody can, should be allowed in any civilized country, nobody is, to keep the investment in land in order to have the land price grow and he becomes rich at the cost of others. That has to go away. So traffic management is not just installation of one train or two or 10. It's about the vertical growth of the city. It's about better management of rules. It's efficient land use. And there are so many other things that CPEC cannot resolve. We, the district government of Lahore or the government of Punjab, can resolve. Likewise, the port of Gwadar. Last year, there were 52 ships in 52 weeks, which means that on one ship per week. Now, they have built a port for us, fine. But what we had to do was better road network to transport all the cargo. Storage capacity, if there is fish, there has to be cold storage is there to keep the fruit or keep the fish and keep those things there. If there is no storage capacity, nobody is going to dock there. If there is no security, nobody would would come there. And most importantly, there is no entertainment in Gwadar. There are no sports complexes, there are no cinemas, there are no clubs. So if a foreign ship comes there, they will dock in Dubai. They will dock in Doha in Oman. Because a person who has been on ship for 1.5 months at least looks towards some relaxation. He at least looks towards some sort of a cinema or a club, a few coffee shops and a restaurant. Otherwise, he will dock at Dubai. And likewise, why would a top shipping or supply chain manager relocate from Karachi or Lahore to Gwadar if there is no good university, if there is no good hospital? So if there is no human resource placed on the port, then the port collapses. Port is not only about the infrastructure. Port is about the social life in that city. Port is also about the technical expertise available in that city. Port is also about the installation, the storage and transportation facilities available in that city. So the point is, when we talk about CPEC's 10th anniversary, and when we talk about balance sheet, I have no complaints with China. I think we as a nation have to look towards ourselves that all these projects will be completed, I have no doubt, in 2030. But if they end up raising Pakistan's total liabilities to other countries, if they end up resulting in the loss of value for rupee versus all other international currencies, then when is the time to change the course? When is the time for course correction? That is now. There is a Chinese saying that if the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago, the second best is now, today, here, on 22nd September, let's say. So this is something that we have to think about. This is something that we have to analyze. Pakistan and China, the present system of China People's Republic, came into being almost around the same time. We on 14th August 1947, they on 1st October 1949. Pakistan is one of the oldest civilizations of the world. 3,000–4,000 years ago, Indus civilization was the most developed part of the world. Same is true with the Chinese civilization. So two ancient civilizations, why on earth couldn't we develop as did many other countries who emulated our examples, like South Korea or like Singapore or like Japan, for example. South Korea's development managers used to come to see the cities of Lahore in 1960 for 2 weeks courses at NIPA, National Institute of Public Administration, that I used to head as Director General, not in 1960s, I wasn't born at that time, but some other of my predecessors were there. And today, compare Seoul with Lahore. I am not saying that Lahore has not developed, but we will agree that there is a difference in the level of development between Lahore and Seoul, or Lahore and Tokyo, or Lahore and Beijing. So that is something, right? So I've been informed that I have run out of time. That's fine. So what's the roadmap for future? And that's my absolute last slide. Pakistan has to concentrate on governance issues, especially rule of law akin to the Chinese mode of governance. I believe that ruthless suppression of terrorist movements is need of the hour. Just like Chinese did wherever any secessionist movements took root, they took it head on. And that is something that we should be doing unapologetically. And urban development management and better governance of the system is need of the hour. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.